so much, Riyaaz, for joining us today. I'm super excited to have this chat with you. The topic of our discussion is pretty interesting and quite specific. But before we go into the nitty gritties, I want you to share about Impresario. How it started, why it started, a little bit about you. It's always super exciting to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for giving me the honor of being part of the Economic Times Retail Summit. It's always a pleasure to hang out with our fellow retailers and learn from them. Um, Impresario is a restaurant company which we started in 22 years ago. We started with a brand called Mocha. It was a coffee shop. Before that, I was in the entertainment business. I was helping developers and builders set up amusement parks and amusement centers and bowling alleys, pool parlors, go-karting tracks, all of that. And what I saw was when people were coming in big numbers for all of this, they would not engage in most of the rides, but they would definitely sit down and have a cup of coffee from a Nescafe machine, and they would have a chutney sandwich which was prepared 3 days earlier. But I think that was what we realized was that there was very few places people had for interaction, right? Social interaction, and that's how Mocha came to be. And Mocha was designed as a Moroccan coffee house, not like Italian-inspired American chain in India. And so we went down a different route, and I think that's what caught people's attention. And we introduced shisha for the first time, and I think that became a very big draw. Although we never intended for it to be that way, but you plan something, and customers have a different plan for you. So we became what was then known as a hookah parlor, which again took off, and there were 8,400 hookah parlors in India. We were the first. 8,400 hookah bars, shisha bars, whatever. Himesh Reshamya has now made it famous. Um, we in 2008 there was a hookah ban, and then suddenly people just stopped coming to us overnight because Mocha had become very closely associated with shisha. Um, Fortunately, we had a few other brands by then. We had diversified, and then we quickly pivoted from Mocha, and we rebranded that same social interaction space, which is now known as Social. And we have now about 54 social stores across India. We are totally, as a group, we are about 60 plus restaurants operating in 20 plus cities. Um, I don't know how we've survived for 22 years, but yeah, we're around.
A follow-up A follow-up question. I mean, I'm a big fan of social.
Thank you.
Same as my mom. How did the idea behind that, behind building social the way it has been built, and those disco lights you guys have? I mean, that's just so the silver ball that you put in the
Which
center,
outlet?
the Noida
The
DLF
Noida.
one.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That was we actually copied that restaurant straight from Liberty Cinema. We went to Liberty Cinema, took lots of pictures, and put that inside a mall. We call it Cinema Social. Yeah. Um, a lot of how did the idea of social come about? Um, well, we've been in the cafe business now for a very long time. Mocha was a cafe. Then we had got Smokehouse Delhi, Saltwater Cafe, Prithvi Cafe, tasting room, and they're all social. They're all manifestations of a cafe experience, but done slightly differently in terms of different tonalities. And what we saw were two things which we saw, right? India is very different when it comes to food. It's first of all very emotional about food, right? And as Indians, we culturally we have a lot of depth in our cuisine, and that's just the world is acknowledging it right now. We like our food fresh. We like it spicy. We like it chatpata. We like it cheesy, creamy, and garma garam. Right? Garma garam बहुत important चीज़ होती है हमारे लिए. Karara, garma garam. Um, we like to share our food. You know, we don't like to order our own main courses. We like आपके plate में क्या आ रहा है हमारे plate में भी there will be 20 things at the same time or you know when we make a bite we'll put dal makhani we'll put rice we'll put like 10 different things we'll put condiments we'll put papad we'll put achar we'll put kanda we'll put dahi. This is how we eat. It's very different and what we saw were cafes were very different from how Indians were eating. So they were imported concepts. They didn't factor in what you know India really wanted. Flavors were different. So we realized that what people are looking for when they're going out socializing is they don't necessarily want to have a cappuccino with a biscotti or a croissant which is lying around for a whole day because that's not what we do. Right? We like fresh things and we like chatpata things and we want to have chai and chaat and we want chai and pakoras. And some days we want a biryani and a beer. So why restrict yourself to just one format? So in many ways, social is a made for India cafe. Especially for India, and also at the time that we started social about 10 years ago, it was the beginning of a very entrepreneurial mindset that India had. You know, people were really into startups. There was the gig economy had taken off, the sharing economy had taken off, the startup ecosystem was at its zenith, and people looking for places to work from. And we went to other cafes, and a lot of times people used to come to our cafes to Saltwater Cafe for meetings. But slowly, they started lingering after the meetings. You know, they came in 1 hour earlier. They opened their laptops and started working. And I went to so many different stores, and you saw people working, but always being concerned that am I welcome? Do I need to order one more muffin that I don't like, so that I can stay on this table? So we kind of created this cafe and co-working space together. And what we started seeing were patterns that were forming where people were, the work life and their professional life and their social life were kind of, melting into each other. They were no longer separate. While there's a lot of talk about work-life balance, and Mr. Murthy has a few things to say. But there should be joy in what we do. And what we realized was that cafes are a great melting pot of where ideas can cross pollinate. It's where serendipities can happen. When you're sitting in your office, and there's a reason why people love working from cafes, because you don't feel like you're being punished when you're in a cafe. You still feel like you're part of, you still feel that you're still enjoying yourself, but at the same time you're working. So, and you never know who you bump into a cafe, and that's where. And cafes are about that. Cafes are not about food and drink. Nobody goes to a cafe because they're hungry. They go there for interaction, human interaction. And we created a space where we could facilitate human interaction, and we're very very happy that social has been the birthplace of many successful companies like Boat now, who's a famous shark on Shark Tank, Urban Ladder as a company, and several other companies were founded in social. And happy to say that most of them even met their co-founders in a social. So we are like Seema auntie for.
Um, Riaz, what you highlighted was actually, how the consumer actually has changed over the 10, 12 years, we can say. And this is the sort of multidimensional space in a food dining experience where you meet like-minded people, you order different varieties of cuisines and food. What is the next big trend in terms of how a dining experience would sort of evolve?
It's just because you invited me here and put a mic in my hand, I'm not going to tell them everybody. No, I think, to be honest, uh, your guess is as good as mine yeah, when it comes to next year. I think people are definitely in this business. It is our nature, right? We will not eat the same thing for dinner what we had for lunch, right? If we had something for lunch, we want a completely different cuisine for dinner, and nobody goes back to the same restaurant twice. every day, unless it's to a cafe. And that's the difference between a cafe and a restaurant. A cafe you go every day, a restaurant you go once or twice a month tops. You look for variety. So what I'm trying to say is that I think people are wanting more of everything. They want more choices when it comes to pizza. They want more choices when it comes to health food. They want more choices when it comes to desi khana. They want more choices when it comes to European food. I think people are demanding much more, and it's a very, very competitive business. And you have to be able to rebuild yourself while you're flying as a plane, because you got to be able to keep your old customers happy, but you also want to be relevant to the next generation of customers. At 300, 1,000 customers who come into the working population age every day. So you want to be able to be relevant to them. You don't want to be my father's brand or my mother's brand. You want to be their brand too. So it is a constant process of re-examining yourself and reinventing yourself, and keep doing more.
Across retail categories, we are seeing brands sort of strategizing in terms of pricing to tap different consumer bases. How do you see that strategy in the food retail space?
We have besides social, we also have Smokehouse Delhi, which is a cafe which is slightly more premium. It's still but what is astonishing is the average order value in social and Smokehouse Delhi is the same. Although it attracts a premium customer, I think people are willing to pay for value. When they get value, they will buy more. We also have certain premium products like Slink and Bardo, Mescalita, Bandra Bond, Saltwater Cafe. So we are catering to a wide audience. Of course, Social is a brand I feel that can scale the most, whereas most of the other brands will remain tier one phenomena. But if you want the real India story, then you got to be in the tier twos and tier threes. And I think for us, tier three is still a little far away. But yes, tier two is something that we are actively attacking right now.
Got it. Got it. Um, uh, if I look at a multidimensional space, something like Prithvi Cafe or social, there's an amalgamation of art and culture. How do you see the technology layer over that?
Well, I think technology is, there's a lot of debate about whether people like menus or whether they like QR codes. But eventually, I think, menus and anything will become archaic. People will look for a media rich experience even when they are socializing. So they will want, they want to have as much information as possible available for them. And I think that restaurateurs have been traditionally, because it's a person to person business, it's been very traditionally slow to adapt to technology, but I think it's becoming inevitable. I think every company needs a CTO now more than ever. And I think any company which does not embrace technology, both in the form of making processes easier, but also as a medium of storytelling, will find themselves out of touch very, very soon.
Any one tech trend, tech investment actually you can highlight which has sort of worked very well for your brands?
Well, to counter, the aggregators have become very, very strong and dominant in the market. The India tech stack has been incredible when you think about what, your digital IDs, and then you've got your UPIs, and now you're getting your ONDC tech stack that's being built up. So I think this is very unique to India. Nowhere else in the world does 40% of your transactions comes from UPI now. Just 7 years ago, we were getting 70% of our business coming from cash and 30% coming from credit cards. It took 5 years for it to become 60% credit cards, 40% cash, and now it's almost 40% UPI, 40% credit cards, and 20% cash. So there a lot can be done. I think the entire process is becoming very, very seamless and very exciting.
You mentioned about QR codes. We scan a QR, we get our menu. What have you noticed? Do consumers still prefer a physical menu in their hands?
The jury's out. Some of them, some people just hate QR codes with a passion. They're like, "What the hell is this? I want a place where I have a menu in my hand." And as a restaurateur, I feel the loss of a menu because that's one of, the best touch point that a restaurateur has when it comes to, explain the concept. The heavier the menu, the more expensive it's going to be. The more photographs is going to be cheaper and easier to understand. However, there are the natives, digital natives, who have shut out everybody else in the sense that they don't want to talk to anybody. They want, even when they sit in an Uber, they don't have to talk to anybody. They don't even have to say hello. They put the address in. It's wordless. You want your groceries home, you order, you don't talk to anybody. So for a lot of people, when they go into a restaurant, they don't want to be bothered. They want to place the order and move on. I think it's much more, the newer generation really likes to do everything on their phone. We are in a hybrid model. We have got menus for people who want menus, and we've got QR codes for people who prefer not to interact with people.
Got it. I just have one final question. You mentioned a lot of food combinations earlier. I wanted to get your thoughts on gulab jamun with ice cream. I hear it's a new trend.
Well, I've been very trendy for the last 30 years. Then it's one of my favorite things. I cannot say no to gulab jamun. It's just the best dessert on the planet.
Thank you so much, Riaz. This was a super fun chat and a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so